Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Spinnick. I am the AMP project manager for Underground Utility District number 38. I'm hoping that you can hear me okay. Just a few ground rules. We're going to keep most people muted. I have about a 15-minute presentation. After I complete my presentation, I'll attempt to answer questions. I also wanted to note for everybody online that we're recording this meeting and we will make it available on AMP's webpage. I'm being a little bit slow as I give a few extra minutes for folks to gather. I'm just going to give it until 6:05 and then I'll start the presentation. Good evening. Welcome to our town hall meeting for the Underground Utility District, project number 38. I'm going to repeat that we are recording this meeting and you should be able to view it on AMP's webpage. Tonight's meeting is intended to provide you with an update on where we are with the UUD 38 project and tell you what you should expect. My presentation should last about 15 minutes, and I will attempt to answer your questions at the end. First, I'll give you a short background of undergrounding in Alameda. Next, I will describe the project process. I will identify key components of the system and tell you what you can expect during construction. For questions, I think that'll be best if you submit your questions in the chat. You can enter them anytime during the presentation and I will address them at the end. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Teams, here's how you submit a question. So first, you want to click on the conversation icon identified by arrow number 1. Looks like a bubble. Then you want to enter your question in the line that pops up, and then hit the send icon to share that question. At the end of this, I'll also try allowing unmuting the microphones so you can ask questions directly. Alameda Municipal Power is the lead agency for the city's undergrounding program. The primary members of the project team are myself, Gary Spenick as project manager, and project engineers Leonard Montilla and Patrick Vallet, and I left his name off. And then for the City Public Works, Lori Kozisek, and then other agencies involved are also AT&T and Comcast. The background of the undergrounding program is that the undergrounding program was started by the city in 1984 to beautify Alameda by relocating overhead utilities to underground. This is accomplished by designating utility underground districts through a city ordinance. Any overhead facilities within that UUD must be converted to underground. The program is primarily funded by 2% of AMP's electric revenues being set aside into an underground utility district fund. Other participating agencies, including AT&T and Comcast, fund their share of the conversion cost. Over half of Alameda is already underground, but we still have about 93 miles of overhead utilities. 25 underground districts have been completed so far, and the last district was completed in 2012. The underground program was revised in 2015 to provide more public input to the selection of the districts and to reduce or eliminate the service conversion costs for individual property owners. The City Council approved the Otis Broadway Underground Utility District, UUD number 38, at its February 19, 2019 meeting. As you can see, the district runs along Otis Drive from High Street to Broadway and along Broadway Street from La Jolla to Encinal Avenue. It's about 1.2 miles long and impacts 196 parcels. One significant change, as I already mentioned, to this program that was made in 2015 is that the program now pays the service conversion cost, which include up to 100 feet of the service lateral trench on private property. Before 2015, the property owner was responsible for installing and paying for this cost and received a partial refund for the electrical conversion. Here's an overview of the construction process. We are done with the preliminary design, and we are working on completing the final design of the project. When the final design is complete, we will solicit for a contractor to construct the main trench and install the service lateral conduits. After the substructure is in place, we will begin to convert customer connections from overhead to underground. After all the utilities, electric, cable, and phone have completed the conversion, that's when the utility poles can be removed. In our design, the main trench is planned for the sidewalk area. So that picture might be hard to understand, but I'm showing Otis, and where all those colored lines are, that's the sidewalk in front of individual parcels. As part of the conversion of the overhead utility lines to underground, it is necessary to install pad-mounted transformers and switches on private property. Without locations to place equipment, the elimination of overhead wires and poles cannot happen. Transformers are used to change the voltage from the high level used for distribution throughout the city to a lower level used by customers. A single transformer serves multiple homes. Proposed locations for the installation of transformers were selected based on the ability to best serve the customers in the area while minimizing the visual impact and maintaining required service levels. AMP will contact property owners directly of the proposed locations very soon. Service laterals connect the main trench to the service point on the house. The service lateral involves trenching from the back of the sidewalk to the residence to install 3 conduits for electricity, cable, and phone service. The lateral typically follows the shortest path to the existing electric meter on the house, trying to avoid driveways, trees, and other structures on the property. AMP's contractor will restore the surface conditions as close as possible to the existing. Of note, property owners must grant permission for this work to be done on their property. The permission will be granted via a permit to enter document that AMP will send to property owners for their approval. Property owners may elect to provide their own trench and substructure, but reimbursement will not exceed the rate charged by AMP's contractor. Your service panel will be converted from being fed from overhead to being fed underground. There are multiple methods that will be used for converting your panel, and it depends on your particular arrangement on which method will be used. The work will progress one section at a time. Trenching activity in front of a particular residence should last only a few days. However, during construction, you can expect that there will be sidewalk closures, driveway closures, possibly, and that's the contractor will coordinate with the property owner before they close your driveway. Street parking may not be available in the construction zone. There could be traffic lane restrictions, and during the service conversion, you will experience a brief scheduled outage. Notifications. Residents will be notified via door hangers before work is done on their property. Project updates and schedules will be posted on AMP's webpage and emailed to those who opt into the project mailing list. I sent a letter to the addresses, and the information is also on this slide. If you follow that link, you can sign up to be part of the UUD 38 mailing list. And then the address for AMP's webpage with the undergrounding information is at the bottom of this page. The next steps, AMP will contact the selected property owners regarding possible equipment easements. We will be finalizing our design, and then prior to construction, AMP will obtain a permit to enter from property owners for service lateral and panel conversions. This schedule you see now is a tentative schedule. There are still some uncertainties due to some critical tasks, such as obtaining easements, not knowing when we'll actually accomplish that. But as you can see, we hope to go out with our contract late this year, meaning that construction would start in 2022. Once construction starts, it's expected that it'll take 24 to 36 months to complete the project, which has the project completing in 2025. And now we'll look at questions. Okay, I have a question that asks about describing what happens in the panel conversion. Let me go to previous slide. Okay, depending on how you're currently how your meter is currently connected, it may look something like the picture on the left, where you have the service drop that comes from the utility pole, either on your side or across the street. It goes into often a vertical pipe that extends up above your roof line, which is the weather head, and then connects into your electric meter. So what happens when that's converted is that there are multiple ways of taking your existing panel and modifying it so that we can serve the panel from an underground feed rather than overhead. Some newer panels have the option of both overhead and underground, and those will not need any adaptation to make them underground fed. But other methods are using a plug-in meter adapter that plugs into the front. Another method is routing up a conduit to go into the top. And other methods, if there's not any other options, would be that we can always go from underground and intersect the existing weatherhead. Okay, I see another question. And at this point, I think the number of participants is low, so feel free to actually unmute yourself, and you can ask too. So Fred asked, will you be switching over as you go or all at once at the end? The actual final conversion will happen all at once. However, we may be able to do some portions as some of the underground is energized. All right, are there other questions? Would anybody like to unmute themselves so that they can ask? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Tang. Got a question about if my electrical panel is old and I want to, I guess, upgrade it to like a 200 amp panel, do I have to have the work done beforehand to have it ready to switch over to the underground?
Actually, it would be very helpful for you to contact us, and then we'll work with you to coordinate that. This is a good opportunity. I know that some of the panels are quite old, and they're located in like little cubby holes under the house, and it would actually probably be beneficial for us and beneficial for you if you wanted to do your panel upgrade at the same time.
Yeah, my panel's on the outside, so it's not that bad, but it is old, and I was thinking of upgrading. But does that mean AMP would take on the responsibility of installing that?
We have to settle how we want to deal with this. In the past, we have had the contractor doing the conversions do the panel upgrade also at the same time. And then basically the property owner was responsible for the cost in excess. So the actual, upgrading the size of the panel, property owner will be responsible for, but the other cost and, all the other associated work would be covered by the project. But we can get into further detail with that later.
Okay. All right. Is that, I guess, what would be the process for doing that then? Would I just contact you to start that
Yes.
discussion? Okay.
Send me a email to the underground amp at alamedamp.com, which I'll put up on this slide here.
Okay.
And yeah, just identify address and that you're interested in doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to ask, and I know we didn't get a huge response. It's hard for people to come to meetings, but at any time, if you have questions about the undergrounding program, you want to provide some feedback, information, you can always mail it to that address on the screen, undergroundamp at alamedamp.com. And then specifically, I'd be curious to know if you have any comments about the town hall, the virtual town hall meeting format. The other thing is, if you look in the chat, if you want a copy of the slides, I had put a post in there earlier, so you should be able to download the slide deck.
Yeah, hi, this is Marco. I live in Fernside HOA area in Alameda. And the electrical utility in that area, just because of the way it was built in 1920s, runs in the back of the houses. And so I'm curious what the plan is to intercept the utility there and how that's going to happen with the undergrounding. Just, I guess, mostly interested in how disruptive or not that may be to existing structure like fences or backyards.
So the process, and there's information on our webpage about the underground district process for identifying districts. As you can tell, the overhead to underground conversion projects take a very long time, and they don't move too quickly. And so the priorities that we're focusing on is mostly the high traffic areas with the most public impact. So if you're on a street like that's maybe just a residential street, or perhaps with the backyard poles, that might not have the biggest public impact. But that said, you'll notice that what we're doing is, in this particular district, Otis Drive is the high traffic area, but we don't want to create islands of underground and overhead utilities. So we're picking up all the side streets that border Otis Drive. So I don't know. I know what you're talking about as far as the backyard poles. If you're asking when you might be undergrounded, I'm not sure, because we're not mapping out the entire city. We're doing a couple districts at a time to identify those, and basically that allows us to look at what the highest priorities at the time are.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I guess it'll take some time to come up with the plans for that area. Like you're saying, the Otis, certain streets are going to be prioritized and used as, I guess, a pathway to make connections. But yeah, I'll just stay in the loop, and when the time comes, I'll probably have more questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Gary, this is Fred. When you come through and do the trenching and lay the conduit, are you going to wire everything up at that time, or are you going to come back and wire it later?
So are you talking the service ladder or the main trench or both?
Both.
Okay, so mostly what will happen is that substructure will get installed, and then we'll come back later and pull cables. So like on your service laterals, the conduits will be laid, and then we'll pull the wire through that. AT&T will pull their phone, and the cable company will pull their wire. And then likewise, we or our contractor will be pulling our own cable after the substructure is completed and it passes all our inspections.
Gary,
Go ahead.
if I may add, hi, I'm Leonard Montella, the project engineer. Most likely what's going to happen is that the infrastructure and conduit will be installed, and there will be a lag in time before the conduit will be pulled. So the process is that the main wires will be pulled in the joint trench, and then heating up the transformers. And once the transformers are heated up and all tested good, then after the laterals will come in afterwards. So that's kind of like the sequence of events for the construction. So I hope that clarifies how the flow work will be.
Thanks, Leonard. Okay. I appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. And then, as I had said, if you have any questions or want to make any comments, please use that email address. And it looks like I've already got one. Any final comments from anyone? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Gary.